Good evening, everyone. I am Assistant Professor VIMAL. Today we are going to discuss a topic known as different types of fluid flow. So before getting into the different types of fluid flow, first of all, this topic comes under the subject called as gas dynamics and jet propulsion. Gas dynamics. What do you mean by gas? Actually, it is a type of fluid which comes under the fluid where the molecules are freely arranged. In the case of liquid, the molecules are slightly compactly arranged, but in solids, the molecules are closely arranged. There is no intermediate gap between two molecules. So, the study of fluids at rest is known as statics, and the study of fluids at motion is called as dynamics. But what do you mean by kinematics? I can explain that. When we consider the pressure force which is used for the motion, that study is called as dynamics, and without considering the pressure force we call it as gas dynamics. Okay, so these are the introduction about gas dynamics. Now we shall get into the topic known as different types of fluid flow. So there are 6 types of fluids flow. First one is laminar and turbulent flow. Next one, steady and unsteady flow. Third one, compressible flow and incompressible flow. Fourth one, uniform and non-uniform flow. Fifth one, rotational, irrotational flow. And the last but not the least one, one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional flows. So let me get into the first topic known as laminar and turbulent flow. So how they are differentiating this type of flow is based upon the motion of particles. The particles, if they follow a smooth path, that is, if the path can be identifiable, the motion is said to be laminar. If the path is unpredictable, that is in the shape of zigzag manner, if it moves means, then the flow is said to be turbulent flow. Clear? So the next point is steady and unsteady flow. The fluid carries some properties such as velocity, pressure, temperature. So if all these properties doesn't vary with time, then the flow is said to be steady flow. If the properties keeps on changing with time, the flow is said to be unsteady flow. So this study comes under steady and unsteady flows. So the next division is uniform and non-uniform flow. So this division is classified based upon the velocity of the particles. Velocity, which means if the particles moves with a constant velocity, that is velocity doesn't changes with space or time, then the flow is said to be uniform. And if the velocity keeps on changing with time and distance, the flow is said to be ununiform flow. So this is the third type of fluid flow. Then coming to the fourth type. Fourth type is nothing but compressible and incompressible flow. This flow is predicted based upon the density. If the density is constant, the flow is said to be compressible flow, and if the density is not constant, the flow is said to be incompressible flow. The fifth one is rotational and irrotational flow. This is one of the important topic where the particle itself moves about its own axis. If it moves about its own axis and also has a rotational path, the flow is said to be rotational flow. If the particle doesn't move about its own axis but it rotates through the body, the flow is said to be irrotational flow. Finally, we comes under one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional flow. If the velocity is a function of distance as well as time, the flow is said to be one-dimensional. Clear? If the velocity is a function of x-axis, y-axis, then time, the flow is said to be two-dimensional. And finally, if the velocity is a function of all the three-dimensional axes like x, y and z axis along with time, then the flow is said to be three-dimensional flow. So this is a brief introduction about the different types of flow. I think you got some information about this video.